how would you like to make your first million? And we have Steve Rolle today broadcasting from Las Vegas. And he's an entrepreneur, investor, and the host of the Rolle with Steve podcast. Wow, fellow podcaster. Over the past 2 decades, he has built and scaled multiple companies across e-commerce, manufacturing, and distribution, generating more than 100 million combined in sales. Wow. He's also an author of the upcoming book, The Future You Choose, where he shares lessons on entrepreneurship, ownership, and building life centered around freedom and international decision making. So, Steve, tell us, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Well, first off, Harry, thanks for having me on. My 5 steps are pretty simple. And if I was starting over today, these are the 5 steps I'd be focusing on to rebuild and get back to where I am right now as a successful business owner. My first one would start off almost theoretical with refusing the default path, refusing the future I didn't choose for myself. All of us have these things in our lives where we grew up, our parents' expectations, our friends' expectations of us. That has to be refused before you can go where you want to go. And that enables you then to decide what you don't want, and then what do I want, and reverse engineer the steps to get there. But it starts with knowing what you don't want so you can know where you do want to go as well. The second thing I would do is I would find a boring problem to go after. You can go after something that's super cool and sexy, but just know that's an uphill path to get to it. I'm looking for something that is an overlooked problem where people are already spending money on that thing, and mine is either going to be better, faster, smarter. I want to find a way to not have to educate the customers. I want to go after where they're already spending dollars and just say, hey, spend with me instead of spending where you're spending right now. When you educate customers, it takes a long time to make it happen. The third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build the engines of the business. Every part of the business needs to have an engine. I talk about the 4 parts of a business. You got to have a product, you have to have a margin, you have to have a distribution plan, and you have to have a way to get customers acquired. If you don't have those 4 in a startup, you're going to fail. But each one of them requires you to build an engine around it so that you as the operator have a system and a process that you follow so you can make sure that you can do it again and again and again. It has to be a repeatable system. More on that in just a second, because step number 4 is at what point am I going to go into this thing full time? I've got to prove to myself that I have a system that works and build the confidence to go into it full time and put myself at risk and other people's lives at risk to come and work at my company. That's only possible if I understand the levers that are in the business. It goes back to our previous step of understanding those 4 engines that you built. Well, what are the levers that make that go faster, that make it go slower, that make it go sideways? If you don't understand that, you think you got lucky. If you got lucky, you're not confident that you can do it again. And that leads into our last step. You got to be the one that stops controlling the engine. I want to be a business owner. I don't want to be the business operator for the rest of my life. So I want to get back to where I'm at right now, meaning that I get the benefits of owning a business, but I don't have to be the one who's doing the work to make it happen. Well, what is required for that? Those engines that I built have to be so repeatable, so systematized, I can bring somebody else or an AI agent into the business to run and operate that repeatable system for me while I receive the economic benefit. Now I'm at the place where I'm creating an ecosystem for people to be successful inside of my organization. And then I can sit on top of the organization as the owner without actually being the one operating the business. If I wanted to get back to where I'm at right now, I'd be focused on those 5 things, Harry.
So someone in the TEDx channel said the other day that all the startups are stupid ideas, and if they were great ideas, already somebody would be doing it. And you share with us, Steve, that you want to go after a boring problem, a problem that is actually overlooked, a problem you know that exists. Let's say, for example, a plumber. We all know, or to get a haircut, we all know that this problem is there, that it's existed, that people need to solve it. So what's your take on this? Are all startups stupid ideas, or actually that approach when it comes to entrepreneurship, rather than invented something, or I have this great solution, it's going to change the world and I'm going to become a billionaire, versus, okay, I'm an entrepreneur here, and this problem might be sound bored and less excited to you, but actually it will make money because I'm changing the approach and everything. Especially when somebody come to me, Steve, I work with a lot of startups, and they said, Harry, I had this idea, nobody else have done it. Every time they tell me this, I'm so scared. I'm thinking, if
Yes.
nobody had done it, maybe there is no need for it, man. Do you
Yes.
think that is
Yes.
so unique and this is the only thing you got that you're unique? Think twice. So what's your take, Steve?
Do you want a business or do you want a lottery ticket? Because those are two very different things. So many people that have ideas for a business, they're describing a lottery ticket versus a business. And they do it because they've been institutionalized by sexy startup culture. They know about Elon Musk, they know about Jeff Bezos, and these billion or multi-billion or trillion-dollar companies that have truly changed the world. And the question I would pose to you is, if you're a 9 to 5 guy today making $40,000 a year, should your first step be to go change the world, or should your first step be to go and build a business that can replace the $40,000 a year that you're making so that you own your own future, you own your own control? Because confidence comes from progressive steps where you accomplish a goal and you set out for a bigger goal, and then you accomplish that goal, and then you work your way up to really big, go change the world. Now, we've heard stories of people that have done it in their very first business. I'm here to tell you that's the exception. It's not the rule. And most people that achieve amazing success built a body of work first with simple things that nobody was that impressed with first before they went on and changed the world. Now, we've seen all this Silicon Valley. It's super sexy. You want to build a tech app and you want to go and build a billion-dollar company. That's fine to have that desire. The reason I say start with something boring is that all of the ideas that come from Silicon Valley, they're going to change the way the world operates. It requires one thing that most people don't think about. And this one thing will hold you back and slow you down if you're not careful as a new business owner. And that one thing is customer education. The customer isn't already spent. They don't even know that they have that problem. So you have to convince that customer that they have the problem, then show them how yours works, educate them 2 times, and then try to get them to buy. How much easier is it if the customer is already spending money? They already acknowledge that they have a problem and they're spending money on that thing to say, here's something faster, better, smarter instead. Now there's one decision of just selling something that they already know they need, that they're already buying somewhere else, versus trying to say, hey, you need this. They're like, no, I don't. Like, you have this problem. Like, I didn't know I had that problem. You don't want to have to educate a customer unless you're signing up for a 7 to 20-year journey to educate customers, burn lots of cash in the process with investor capital, and then go and change the world when you're ultimately successful. But we know the numbers on startups, most of them are going to fail. Most businesses are going to fail. So what you have to do as someone who's new, who's trying to get a business up off the ground, is say, where can I have the highest probability of success? And for me, that's boring businesses with things that people already know that they need, that they're already paying for. Harry, I made all my money selling little soaps and shampoos for hotel rooms. All I did was say, hey, forget the hotels. I'll make them for Airbnbs instead when Airbnb was coming up. It's not a phenomenal idea. It's not a sexy business. It's done tens of millions of dollars of revenue in those little Airbnb kits that we made. It was a very boring business that people just put on a subscription and they rebuy and they rebuy and they rebuy. It's a consumable. It has to be replaced. And so there's a lot of value in positioning somewhere that someone is already spending money. They're going to spend money again on it the next month and the month after that. You don't have to have a phenomenal idea. Look at where there's problems and find ways to say, okay, that's pretty boring. It's going to be a problem for a long time. Let me go position myself between that customer and their problem and start a business there. And so people ask, like, okay, where do you find these boring businesses? And they're like, everywhere you look. Look at all the things that you spend your money on and don't think twice about right now. That's a boring business, okay? You don't have to change the world. You position yourself between someone and that problem they have as a boring business to get that repeat revenue over and over and over again. You can sell soap like I did. You can sell services like plumbing and HVAC services, and people need someone to sweep their chimneys for them. They need someone to rake their leaves and cut their grass and babysit their kids and make their lives better. The thing about boring businesses too that I'll close with is that in an age of AI that everyone's worried about their job security and what they're going to do if AI takes their job, the jobs that are going to be around the longest before they're disrupted by AI are the boring ones. Because there's no one out there right now saying, hey, AI agent, go make a soap company that's going to distribute soap to hotels. That's way too boring for something for AI. Now, I'm not saying it's safe forever. It will eventually happen. But there are things that are more difficult that require a robot and AI to do it. If you're going to have someone come in and do the plumber, it has to have a brain. You got to get past regulation to touch the electrical panel. You want a human doing that who's licensed. And so these are areas that you can still go into and do a 30 or 40-year career, even in the age of AI. But there's people that are not thinking about these because they go, oh, what? Well, I don't want to do that. I'm not passionate about that. And I said, are you passionate about making money? Okay. Because if you're passionate about making money, the industry matters a whole lot less. So I'm all for the sexy ones. I say build your way up to doing the sexy one that changes the world, but do what Elon Musk is. Start small and then have your big exit. And then after you've sold PayPal, now go out and buy SpaceX. Now go out and buy Tesla. Now go out and change the world. He didn't do it all at once to become a trillionaire. He had a body of work that he progressively was taking bigger swings over time. And we should think about what was the first step that he took. Okay, let me start there. And let me just replace my current income with a business before I start trying to go make $100 million in a business.
Steve, out of the 500 millionaires that we interview in this podcast, 1 out of 5 are tech entrepreneurs, tech millionaires. So the question is that need to become a millionaire in tech? I'm glad you talked the story of Silicon Valley, right? So tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly of tech business and tech entrepreneurs. However, like you, someone that changed the approach, okay? I always say every time when you see a flight into a glass window, it's never going to go through. Don't give up. It will never going to go through. However, if it change the approach, okay, it can find the door and leave. And this is what you have done. Yeah, it looks like simple, like a soap business, but at the end of the day, you mix technology with your soap business. You have an online tech business that actually have something very valuable in the marketplace, which is constant cash flow because it's reusable, it's refillable. So you have monthly cash flow, which is that give a very big value to your company. Also because it's a tech related, right? So it's easy to scale. So because you have the experience, and I want to congratulate you because, you know, it sounds boring, but you have done amazing. You have done the same way that Airbnb did for hotels or Uber did for cab, well, for taxis, you did for soaps, yeah? So someone has to do it. So you have done amazing combining tech with the traditional business. But because you've been there from the beginning, we want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly of tech business because we have a lot of tech startup founders listening to the podcast. And it doesn't matter what I say, 1 out of 5 are tech millionaires, and everybody is following this narrative. Or I'm going to make a tech business, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, following the stories of the big giants that is like a lottery ticket, but you have done it from scratch. So tell us good, bad, and ugly of tech entrepreneurs.
All right, so the good, the
and
bad,
why we have so many
ugly.
Millionaires, because we do have. They showing up to a podcast.
That's true. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a technology-focused business. Whether you are building a SaaS product, whether you're working in e-commerce, you've found a way to leverage technology and turn that into a business. I think that there's levels to the game. Because when you think about e-commerce, it's very different from building inside of technology. But what they share in common is that they're extremely scalable. You make it one time, and then it's this repeatable process that runs and cycles for you. Product businesses like e-commerce still have old school manufacturing that are filtered in, that you become really a distributor of that manufacturer using technology to distribute to customers and customer acquisition that's all done online. Your SaaS businesses, people that are writing code, is ultimately scalable. You make that thing one time, you make small iterations to it, and you can change the way that people's lives operate from that. But again, once you build it, you don't have to build it again. And so what I love about e-commerce, what I love about the SaaS company is that you build the product once and then you continuously sell it over and over again, whether you're selling on a monthly subscription or whether you're selling a product over and over again. That being said, it's wonderfully scalable. That's the good part. What's the bad part of these technology companies? It looks easy. It looks really easy to be a technology company, to be an e-commerce company. And so everybody thinks now, especially with AI and the agents that are popping up, oh, well, I can go make some software. I can go build a SaaS now and start selling that to people. It's simple. Let me just go get a Claude Code account, Perplexity Computer, Codex. I'm going to go and make that thing. They look at someone like me who's selling products on Amazon and Walmart and Shopify, and they go, well, that's easy. All you did was you go and grab a product and you go and throw it up there and you make it happen. It's bad. It looks like it's easy. In reality, every business is hard. I don't care if you're the boring plumbing business, you're the SaaS, or you're the e-commerce business. Every business is going to take time and a learning curve to build a product, learn how to distribute that product to customers, talk to customers, learn from them, iterate your product, find product market fit, and then build the engine and machine that runs that business. So people think it's going to be a really easy path to go into a SaaS, go into technology, go into e-commerce. That's so much easier than going out and building a plumbing business instead. When it comes down to it, we all know the facts here. 95% of businesses that start will never do $1 million in revenue. Full stop there. 19 out of 20 are never going to $1 million in revenue. And that's not profit, that's revenue. If you're lucky and you get a 30% profit margin on that, that means that businesses will never make $300,000 in profit ever across the board. Okay, so what does it take to be in the 5% that do and that go beyond that? This is where I say if you want to have a business that lasts, and you want to get in something that's going to actually become one of the top 5% businesses that does over $1 million in revenue, you got to find something that you are naturally interested in and where you have opportunity. So technology, SaaS products, e-commerce, it's not for everyone. The question is like, do you like that? And it's not that you would say, oh, I really love the Amazon platform. I really love Walmart. I really love coding. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is there a repeatable that you're doing that feels like you're playing, that you're excited about doing every single day, and to other people, they're kind of like, oh, I would never spend my time on that. I would hate to do that. Because if you can get yourself to that point where you find, and all of us have that thing that we're naturally interested in, naturally excited about, and we're positioning there, if that is e-commerce, if that is working in technology, fantastic. But if it's not, success takes 5, 6, 7 years of doing the same things over and over and over again and building those engines that can run with you and then without you. And if you don't give yourself the time to go and learn and talk to customers for that period of time, you're going to be one of the 19 of 20 that never does $1 million in sales. That's just the truth. The ugly part of technology and e-commerce, I'll tell you this, you probably don't hear this too often from people. Most technology companies that are small, most e-commerce companies that are small, but have achieved large enough revenues to start having employees, they're 100% remote. And we've been sold a false bill of goods since COVID that 100% remote is the best it could ever be. It's good for the employee, gives them work-life balance, it's good for the business owners. It's really, as people say, why? Because interpersonal communication matters. In-person communication, having a conversation, seeing someone's eyes when they're talking to you, that matters. I used to brag about the fact that my business was fully remote. I was so proud about that. Oh, we don't have to have an office. I don't have to go be chained to a desk somewhere. You know what? I think it's held me back from growing larger and scaling faster because we didn't have people together. There was interpersonal conflict because things got lost in a Slack message. Things got lost in communication over a text when it could have been done face-to-face. People are much more willing to go into an altercation over email than they are in person. You notice that in life. When you can hide behind a screen and you see it on social media, you can just say whatever you want. But when you're face to face with someone, we tend to work a little bit better with people, be a bit more agreeable with them. And that doesn't change in a business. It's great that it's very scalable and that you can hire people from all over the world and bring them together into an ecosystem. But I think by and large, you're seeing the largest companies realize right now, I need you in an office, because in the office, we can collaborate together, and a business that's going to run off these repeatable systems needs people that are able to work together. And to do that, it just happens best in person. And so the ugly side of technology and e-commerce businesses is that you're fully remote. People work from all over the world. And as cool as that is, it does hold businesses back once you get past that first $5 to $10 million in revenue, because that's when the real tried and true of what scales you from 5 million to 100 million, you need people to be in the same place to make that happen. By and large, there's companies that have done it and they've done very successful. I would say they've been successful in spite of the fact that they are still fully remote. And what's the easier path? Again, I'm not saying this is the right path. I'm saying what's the highest probability of success? You get that when you have people in the same place, working together, collaborating together, and not getting lost in the interpersonal funk that is Slack messages and email only or picking up a telephone. You want to do things face to face as much as possible. I think that still matters in this world. As much as I love technology, I still love face to face.
Steve, I'm glad that you touched on that. The other day I was in the co-working space in Miami, and in downtown there is a lot of space, a lot of empty desk as we speak. And I was speaking with the owner and I was sharing the idea that, look, this is bad because when it comes for innovation to do brainstorms in companies, you need to have the people together. Nothing will replace, and the companies, you always have to constantly to be innovating. Otherwise, there is no brainstorm productive that is happening in Zoom. You need
Yes.
that eye connection, right? You need to, when you have a problem or match between the team, right, and the leadership and the ideas and the collaborative work, nothing it will be beat the face-to-face. It was a reason why everybody was in an office before, because it was more productive. The internet has been
Yes.
around a long time, yeah, and we it was reason why we used to come to the office in the first place before. It was just kind of, and now it's very difficult to get the people out of the house. And also, again, I don't know, when you are if you want to go, you go for it
Yes.
with colleagues, and then you chit chat, and at least you have, like a problem, which is actually at work. Look, you see, we need to improve this leadership. Then you go back and you see it and you socialize and you see your teamwork. So that energy that you get when you're working in a place together with other people, you don't get it if you are the whole week working online. Even me, I'm a public speaker. I speak in front of audiences all over the world. And when COVID came, I'm like, and somebody told me, Harry, you have to go and Zoom in front of the camera. I'm like, what? How come? How can I do this? I need to see people. See people. I cannot be in front of the camera. And this podcast, I'm very grateful because I've met amazing people like you, but I was resisting to it a lot before I started, because I always find a way to however, if from this broadcast we can raise the conversation for people to socialize more, it's good for companies. You're 100% right?
That's true. And
And
one more
about
important point
scaling
on
up,
that
yeah,
too.
and expand a little bit more in the scaling, Steve, because you said something which is very interesting. Yeah, you can go 10 to 100 million, everybody online, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about the fastest way not only to make the path easy. You don't make 100 million and jump into a company that has a toxic environment where everybody have to achieve a certain number. If you don't achieve the last month, you fire. Yeah, you make 100 million like that. A lot of people have done it. But this is a company you want to run, or do you
Yeah.
want to create some framework? I understand if you're a mom, you cannot be 9 to 5 in an office, and that's why online there. But you see, online can get some office time to the mom if she wants to do it when she can, and that also will have a very positive impact in the mental health, I think. So tell us a little bit about scaling up, because this is go to 10 million to 100 million. This is a different ball game, and a lot of things can go wrong. I'm the first victim of scaling up. When 0 to 1, it was, when we're scaling 1 to 5, I'm scaled too fast. I didn't know what I was doing. And actually, the thing had the brilliant idea, let's go everybody online. Nobody want to go to the office. I said, okay, if you don't want to go to the office, I'm not going to pay for the office. So everybody was happy to work from home. Yes, we're happy. Okay, guess what happened? We still to scale up. I'm scaling up too fast. And then the team, I'm taking, my first business was in property. So we rent a property in London, and then we rent individually the room. So I'm on charge of finding the houses. I'm finding the houses, and then the team need to sell it. And but if I find a house cheap, I take it. And if I find another one cheap, I take it. And then because my team is online, then they say, Harry, you cannot take two houses because now we have 10 rooms empty at the same time.
Yep.
And I said, well, which we were in the office, we will figure out that way, but because now everybody's at home. So tell us a little bit more about scaling up and this online in-person game.
I'll tell you, the beautiful thing about an e-commerce business and an online business is that you really can be a business of one up to 3, 4, $5 million of revenue. There's not many businesses that are like that you can have that level of scale as a business of one. The problem is anyone who gets to 5 million as a business of one tends to have a really hard time going to 10, 15, and 20 because they've gotten so used to being that operator themselves. They've never had to hire someone. They never had to work with people having to work together, trying to figure out how to get everyone on the same page. They were just the one doing everything themselves. And eventually, if you're doing all the work yourself, you will peak out, either at your capacity of what you're able to do or the capacity of what you are willing to do. Because you're going to get comfortable. You're going to start making more money than you ever made before in your life. And if it's just you and you get comfortable, that's a very dangerous spot for the business to be in. Because the moment you get comfortable and it's just you, you start slacking off a little bit. And that business will underperform because you get comfortable. Okay, so you know you need employees. When you're scaling up from one and you've got to go to 20 or 25 employees, all of the headaches of dealing with people that you never even thought of before when you were a small business, you start figuring out, man, it's hard to hire good people. People say one thing when they're talking to you in an interview, and they are not that person when they actually show up. You got to have a system and a process of doing good quality interviews to filter out the people that are not going to be good for your organization before. And that's a learning curve in and of itself. That takes years in and of itself to find the right people for your organization, then getting them all to work together. I learned so many lessons scaling up from a company of 2 to a company of 20 in 18 months, hiring everyone, getting them all on the same page, trying to establish a management layer in between so that I wasn't individually talking to all 20 people inside the business. And so many of the lessons that we learned as a remote company was getting everyone on the same page. Man, if you as the business owner don't understand what everyone's role is, why you hired them, exactly what they need to do, and how they fit into the bigger picture, how the hell are they supposed to know what their job is, who they should be collaborating with? And so what you realize is as you start hiring and scaling up, if you're not organized as the owner of the business, your employees are going to be fighting over a lot of ticky-tack stuff to figure out who's in charge of what because you never even thought of that far. You just thought, I need some people to do this job. Okay, you went and hired them. Well, nobody knows who they answer to. Nobody knows who's responsible, where there's overlap, who they have to communicate with, because that was all living up inside your head. And so one of the best things that you can do before you start scaling is literally take every single component of the business that you and your early employees do and turn it into, I know it's boring, standard operating procedures, and literally write down what you do, why you do it, why it's important, how you do it into a document. Now, these days it's 2026. We made it easier for people. ChatGPT is really good at taking what you do in verbal format, talking to it, and turning it into an SOP that is repeatable that somebody else could pick up. It's getting phenomenal at that. It's one of the best things ChatGPT can do is when you give it all the information and it can turn it into a nice standard operating procedure document that can be reused by somebody else. Then it's good at following that process once you've given it the SOP for someone to go through. But you have to have that figured out. You got to have an org chart that understands here's where I am, here's who answers to me, here's who answers to them, and here's where there's overlap between those roles and how we're going to handle that. Because those are the things you want to be telling somebody in an interview. You're going to answer to this person. You're going to be doing this job. You'll be collaborating with these people. And if you can't articulate that, you have the normal mess that most businesses have when they're hiring up their first dozen employees, where it's like, oh, we're just going to build it all together. Building it all together is a recipe for conflict because people are joining your team based off the description that you gave them in the job. And they say things like, well, that's not on my job description. That's not what I was hired for. And like, well, you joined a startup. Okay. Your job is going to change over time. We're building this all together. You got to find the right culture and people to join you on that. But all of the headaches from interpersonal contact, all the headaches from people not getting along, for me, they could have been avoided by me taking 1 to 2 weeks of sitting down with no distractions and identifying these are the roles that are vital to the machine that I've already built so that 6 months from now, I can do a whole lot less and start to be the one driving the machine instead of the one who's building the machine. And here's exactly what that job is. Here's who we need to hire for it. Here's the skill and competency that's important for them to be good at that job and to come in and learn that job and to collaborate with others on the team. If I would have spent that time and thought process first before scaling up, and you know this from scaling, all of the issues you run into when scaling, whether it's people, whether it's product, whether it's manufacturing, they all can be avoided if you planned more before you started. If you talk to someone else who's scaled already and understands, and it's kind of a rite of passage as a business owner to go through the scaling woes to understand, man, I have so many issues that could have been avoided if I had planned first, but I didn't know to plan. And so if you think about scaling the same way you think about starting your business, where you're going to fail, you expect to fail going in, you iterate the product, and scaling is kind of the same way. You will break the machine that you made in your business when you begin to scale. Just know that. And you iterate on it and you get better at it. And as you're scaling, it's kind of the same thing as starting your business from scratch. It takes time and failure to get good at it. The second time you scale a business is going to be 10 times easier because you know what to avoid and you know how to properly plan before you get started with it. Scaling is always going to be a challenge. And I think the only way to make it easier is like anything else in life. Already have done it once before and have the confidence to know I can do this. I've done it before. Well, until you've done it the first time, you have to get that motivation and that momentum and that confidence from, hey, I've got a body of work of things I figured out before that were equally as complex as scaling this business. I know I'm going to figure it out. I don't know when and I don't know how, but I know I have what it takes to figure out how to scale this business. And it's going to be a bumpy road, but hey, nothing easy was ever done without going uphill. And this is meaningful. It's going to be hard. I'm going to fail. And that's okay. That's how I think about scaling.
Steve, if someone is in love in the conversation with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works, and tell us about your book also before we conclude.
I'd love to. I'm Steve Rolle. It's Rolle is my last name. You can find me and collaborate with me at steverolle.com. I do have a book coming out at the end of July. It's called The Future You Choose. And this is a book for aspiring entrepreneurs. It's a book for people who are hungry, who want to start a business, who want to quit their 9 to 5. And it's really a blueprint that tells you, okay, so you have all this aspiration. How do you start a business? What do you do for that business? Okay, once you built the business, how do you make the business so that you're not going to be stuck inside that business for the rest of your life in the same bondage you could have had in your 9 to 5? That's what this book is all about, to motivate you to change your mindset, to have agency, start a business and prepare it the right way so that one day you can step away from it and achieve that beautiful thing that we call passive income. And now passive income is possible. Passive income is possible. In a business, passive income requires you to really go through it for 5 to 7 years to build the engines that I talk about. And then you're going to be able to go and have drinks on the beach while the business is working without you. But you earned that drink on the beach while the business is making money. It wasn't passive income like putting your money into the S&P 500 or buying a rental property. This is a different kind of passive income, but it is achievable. Look, I'm all about people having control in their lives. And I don't hate people that have a 9 to 5. I've had a 9 to 5 before. I wanted more control over my employment than that. And that's why I wanted to be a business owner. And that's why I wanted to be able to understand what are the levers that allow me to be in control of my own life. That's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book for people that are just like me, that are hungry like me, and want to be in control, but they need a little bit of a push. They need some motivation. They want to hear from someone else who's already done it. And this book is a blueprint of how I did it and exactly how others can do the exact same thing. So I appreciate you giving me the chance to throw the plug in there for the book, but I'm Rolle With Steve on all social platforms, Rolle With Steve, and you can go to my website, steverolle.com.
And I concur, Steve, what you just said. Yes, because the passive income in business is possible. I don't, right? Don't come by accident. When you become a leader and you enhance leadership in your organization, It's gonna happen to you. What happened to me? One day I came to the office and the girls told me, my manager told me, Harry, go home. We don't need you anymore. I said, like what? Say we can run this company without you. Travel if you want. They told me, I will come once a month for 2 hours to tell you what are we doing with the company. That's how good they were. That's how good they were. They're into a great leaders, and they have a commitment to. They want to prove me that they can do better than me. Yeah, I don't know how this happened, but this is what they wanted to do. That's what that get them excited. They want to show me that they can do better than me, which it was amazing. And but it didn't happen overnight, Steve. I came with this stupid mentality at the beginning of my business, like most entrepreneurs, right? Because we all have ego, otherwise we won't be entrepreneurs. We think that we can do something, but somehow, especially starting out the first year, because you're making some dollars, you think that you're the big deal and everybody had to do what you say and you're the big deal. And you go to this office with this big ego, and that is something very stupid that kills you. Actually, because I was so tired, everything had to be run by me. All the customers want to speak with me. I'm thinking, when am I gonna sleep? When am I gonna sleep? The other client want to speak with me, and all the thing need to run everything through me. So out of survival, I start to enhance leadership into organization. I start to tell them, okay, you are. I remember Eva, my manager. I told her, look, from now you Harry. So what? Yes, you Harry. So everybody that call you to want to speak with Harry will speak with you. You take the decision, and it's okay. You don't even need to tell me. So like this, I'm thinking like this, I can sleep. So you leader by leader, something the dynamic change in the organization. When I give them some space and I learn how to hire people and how to trust people and how to not as an employee, but also become their own leaders and have leadership within the organization. One day you will show to your office and you will become obsolete. They will send you home, which is the first day you feel a little bit weird and confused, but the second day is amazing. The second day is I'm thinking at home and I'm thinking, I can't believe that I put this off. And they send me home. And they are confident that do better job if I'm not there at the program. So that's amazing thing that happened to me, and I wish that happened to every entrepreneur out there, because it didn't come a lot of hard work, especially 0 to 1 is. I always say it's a traumatic experience for all entrepreneurs that have done it. That's why we talk about the topic here, because I'm still getting my mental sanity out of this 0 to 1 process, which is a little bit traumatic for everybody, right? So thank you so much, Steve. I think you're amazing. You have very positive energy. I know you have to go. So for all of you following the podcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur like Steve Rolle and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.